There is a corner of America where the property tax is somebody else's problem, winter never shows up, and the federal government has quietly misplaced your name. Not a bunker, not a sailboat. 5 real places, flying the same flag as your post office, where you could move next month with no passport, no visa, and no awkward conversation through a plexiglass window at an embassy. My name is Hank. I sold a house in the lower 48, bought raw land, and I have spent every year since learning that every escape hatch has a hinge somebody else controls. So we are going to walk all 5 of America's forgotten territories. The water, the rent, the tax bill, the grocery run. And then the part nobody puts in the video, which is what each one quietly takes off you in exchange, because they will all take your money, happily. Only some of them will let you keep your Social Security, your citizenship, or your patience. Stay through to the last one, because the smallest and strangest of the 5 is the only one on this list that does not pick your pocket on the way in. And if you know somebody who talks about leaving every single February and never gets past the open browser tab, send them this before they wire a deposit on a beach lot. That is the only favor I will ask you for up front. Let us start somewhere warm. The Virgin Islands are the ones your brother-in-law already thinks he understands, because he went on a cruise once and stood in a jewelry shop for 40 minutes. St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, and a small one called Water Island that sounds like somebody ran out of ideas at the naming meeting. All of it is American soil, American courts, American dollars, American mail. You step off the plane and nobody asks you to justify your life choices. St. Thomas is the loud one. Cruise ships, duty-free perfume counters, and a harbor full of rum drinks with little umbrellas in them. St. John is most of a national park, so it is hiking trails, quiet sand, and neighbors who ferment things in jars and will tell you about it at length. St. Croix is bigger and flatter and slower, the sort of island somebody moves to in order to stop explaining themselves, and then spends 9 years restoring a wooden boat they will never actually sail. The money is where the postcard stops. Nearly everything on the shelf arrived by ship, so you are paying mainland prices plus freight on cereal, plywood, tires, and dog food. Electricity is expensive, and it is not reliable. Long outages are ordinary, and after a while people stop calling them emergencies and start calling them Tuesday. Now, the tax line. You will hear that there is no state income tax, and technically that is true, and practically it is one of the most misleading sentences in this entire genre. The territory runs what is called a mirror tax code. It copies the federal tax code almost word for word, and then you file it and pay it locally instead of to the Internal Revenue Service. So the rate structure you are used to follows you down there. What you have actually escaped is one layer, not the bill. Anybody who tells you that moving to the Virgin Islands means you stop paying income tax is either selling you something or has never filed there. The genuinely aggressive tax programs in the islands exist, and they are built for companies that relocate operations and hire local staff. They are not built for a retired couple with a pension and a fishing boat. Here is what nobody tells you. In 2017, 2 Category 5 hurricanes crossed these islands roughly 2 weeks apart. Irma, then Maria. People who lived through it will tell you the place never fully came back to what it was before, and that every serious storm since has taken a little more off the top. Read the comments under any video about relocating there, and the same 3 sentences keep appearing, written by people who already left. That getting your power connected can depend on who you know rather than what you filed. That a street address is more of a suggestion than a fact, so you end up describing your house by the color of its shutters, and that a lot of longtime residents are openly tired of mainlanders showing up to improve a place that was not asking. You can love it there. Plenty of people genuinely do, but you are moving into somebody else's home, not onto a blank stretch of sand. One more thing on the islands, and it applies to every place in this video. Time works differently, and I do not mean that as a compliment or an insult. A tradesman who says Thursday means the general region of Thursday, a part you ordered for the truck lands when the ship lands. If you are the kind of man who gets tight in the jaw when somebody is 10 minutes late, that trait will either dissolve within a year or it will chew straight through you. There is no third outcome. I have watched both happen to people I know. Now go the other direction, about as far as you can go and still be standing on American ground. Guam sits in the Western Pacific, closer to Manila than to Honolulu, on the far side of the international date line. It is tomorrow there, You will text your sister on a Tuesday morning and she will answer you from Monday night. That has never once stopped being funny to me. It is a territory, so you can move there tomorrow. No passport, no visa, no immigration attorney. Your money spends. Your social security check arrives. The military presence is enormous, which buys you excellent runways, a big box store, and the occasional morning where you wake to fighter jets and briefly wonder what you signed. The food is Chamorro and Filipino and American all at once. The sunsets are frankly unreasonable, and people will feed you before they get around to asking your name. Here is the constitutional oddity nobody leads with. You will be an American citizen living on American soil, paying federal taxes, and you will not be able to vote for president. The island sends a delegate to Congress who can speak and sit on committees, and is shut out of the final vote on the floor. Whether that bothers you is genuinely personal. Some people find it insulting. Others point out that it comes with a certain freedom from caring about any of it. But you should decide which one you are before you sell the house, not after. What nobody tells you is the medical situation. Guam has hospitals and it has good doctors, but for anything genuinely serious, a great many patients end up on an airplane. Hawaii is most of a working day away. Manila is closer. That is a perfectly fine arrangement when you are 40. At 70, with a heart you already argue with, that is the single most important sentence in this video, and it is the one the relocation channels skip because it does not photograph well. Ask yourself plainly where you want to be standing on the day something goes wrong in your chest. Then there is the humidity, which is less weather than a physical opinion, and the animals, stray dogs, feral pigs, and chickens that answer to no one. All of it is charming for a week and a management problem for a decade. On cost, do not let the tropical setting fool you into expecting cheap. Fuel, power, and groceries all run high because the ocean is in the supply chain, and the houses that survive the big storms are poured concrete with steel shutters, which is not a cheap way to build anything. What you save on heating oil in January, you hand straight back in July running the air conditioning against that humidity. Which brings us to the one everybody has heard of. Puerto Rico is the big one. Millions of people, real mountains, real cities, a genuine economy, hospitals with specialists in them, and rents that will make a Californian sit down slowly. You keep your citizenship, you keep your benefits, you skip the passport. On paper, it is the easiest move on this list by a wide margin, and on paper is precisely where the trouble begins. Every relocation video will assure you that English is widely spoken, and you will manage fine. The most upvoted comment I have ever read underneath a video like this one came from a man who moved there for a year, and he said that was the single biggest lie he had to face. He was not objecting to learning Spanish. He was angry that nobody warned him it was required. He said the law firm that handled his paperwork told him everybody spoke English. Away from the tourist strips and the corporate offices, he found that was not remotely the case. So let me put you in the room, because this is the part that actually decides whether you last 2 years or 6 months. It is your third week. You are standing at a counter, and it might be a utility office, a clinic, or a hardware store, and the person across from you asks something perfectly reasonable in Spanish. You catch maybe 2 words of it. There is a line forming behind you. Uh, do you say plainly that you do not understand and ask them to slow down? Or do you nod, smile, say yes, and walk back out to the car, holding a document you cannot read? Be honest with yourself, because almost all of us are certain we would ask, and almost all of us nod. I would like to know which one you actually are. Put it in the comments, especially if you have already lived it, because the person reading this section tonight before they book a flight will learn more from your answer than from anything I say. The rest of the reality check is short. The electrical grid has been fragile for years, and the repairs keep getting outrun by the next storm. Hurricane season is a season, not an event. Doctors have been leaving for mainland salaries for a long time, so the specialist you need may have a very long waiting list, and those famous tax incentives you have heard about are aimed at investors and business owners with accountants on retainer. A retiree on a fixed check is not who that program was written for. And there is a line I keep running into from people who actually did this and then came back, which I think is the truest thing anybody says about the whole idea. The best places to take a holiday and the best places to live have almost no overlap. A fortnight somewhere is a completely different product from a decade somewhere. The heat that felt like a gift in week 1 is a daily negotiation by year 3. The slow pace that unclenched your shoulders in February is the reason your roof is still not fixed in November. None of that means do not go. It means go with your eyes open and rent for a year before you buy a single thing. Now, the strangest one on the list, and if you have only just found me, my name is Hank, and this is the one that surprises people the most. American Samoa is 7 small islands in the South Pacific, green and volcanic and quietly spectacular, with a culture that is genuinely intact rather than reassembled for visitors. Family life runs through the Aiga, the extended family. Land and title decisions run through the Matai, the chiefs. Sunday is observed seriously. It is quiet in a way most Americans have simply never experienced, and the flights in are few and generally routed through Honolulu, which tells you how far outside the pattern it sits. And this is where the fine print gets serious, so stay with me. American Samoa is the only inhabited place under the American flag where being born on the soil does not make you a citizen. People born there are United States nationals rather than United States citizens. They hold American passports, they can live and work anywhere in the country, and they serve in the armed forces at some of the highest rates of anywhere in the nation. But they cannot vote for president, and if they want full citizenship, they go through naturalization the same as somebody arriving from another country entirely. What makes it stranger still is that Samoan leaders have repeatedly defended that arrangement themselves because they believe automatic citizenship would expose their land and title system to challenge in federal court. Which tells you everything you need to know about the second thing nobody mentions. You are not going to buy a piece of American Samoa. The great majority of the land is held communally by families and administered by chiefs, and it is simply not inventory. There is no beach lot sitting there with your name on it waiting for a wire transfer. You can visit, you can rent, you can be welcomed with real warmth, and you can spend 20 years there as a guest. And for a certain kind of person, that is the definition of peace. For anybody whose entire retirement plan rests on owning the dirt they are standing on, that is a wall with no door in it. And be realistic about the daily economy while you are there. Work is concentrated in a small number of places, the government and fish processing chief among them, and it is not an island where an outsider parachutes in and finds a job. Prices at the store reflect how far the ship traveled. If you are picturing a cheap tropical semi-retirement funded by a bit of casual work on the side, that is not this island. If you are picturing arriving with your own income and living somewhere that has held on to itself while the rest of the country sold everything it had, then that is exactly this island. Which leaves the one I would actually pick. The northern Mariana Islands sit just north of Guam. Sepuntinian Rota. Beaches that would be world famous with better marketing, water clear enough to look like a special effect, and history heavy enough that you will pass memorials on the walk to the store. Some of the hardest fighting of the Second World War happened on that ground, and the island has never pretended otherwise. Crime is low, partly because everyone knows everyone and there is not enough road to run away on. Here is the part almost nobody knows, and it is the entire reason this chain is last. Supplemental security income, the federal payment a great many older and disabled Americans depend on, is not available in Puerto Rico. It is not available in Guam. It is not available in the Virgin Islands. It is not available in American Samoa. The Northern Marianas are the one place on this whole list where that payment still follows you. If you or anybody in your household relies on that program, 4 of the 5 destinations we have just walked through will quietly end it the day you establish residency, and this one will not. That single fact reorders the entire list for a lot of people watching right now, and I have never once heard it mentioned in a video about moving to the islands. Rents are genuinely low by mainland standards. People who live there talk about modest apartments and small concrete houses at monthly numbers that read like a misprint in most American cities. And now the part they leave out. Everything arrives by ship, so the shelves have moods, and you learn to cook what is actually there instead of what you had planned. Anything medically complicated still means a flight, usually to Guam, Hawaii, or the Philippines. Typhoons are a fixture of the calendar rather than a surprise. And the economy is small and has taken real hits, so do not arrive expecting to find work. Arrive with your own income, or do not arrive at all. So there they are. 5 pieces of America that most Americans could not point to on a map. Every one of them real, every one reachable next month, and every single one carrying a price that never appears in the brochure. I have been on my own land long enough to know that the fantasy is never the problem. The fantasy is fine. It is the one detail you did not check that sends you home inside 2 years. For one of these, it is a hurricane. For another, it is the length of a flight to a hospital. For another, it is a language nobody warned you about. For another, it is a passport that reads national instead of citizen. And for exactly one of them, it is a check that simply keeps arriving. So tell me, which of the 5 would you actually get on a plane for, and what is the one thing that would stop you? If you have lived in any of them, say so plainly, because somebody scrolling past is about to make this decision on far worse information than yours. I am Hank. I put one of these out every single day, and the whole point of this channel is that somebody says the quiet part out loud before you sign anything. If that is worth something to you, subscribe, and I will see you at the next one.